Hello Year 4, how are you? Welcome to English Today. In today's lesson, you're going to be learning to recognise the main features of a persuasive letter. And by the end of this lesson, you will be able to explain what needs to be included in a persuasive letter. You will be able to annotate and label a persuasive letter to show the main features of it. And you will also be able to give examples using a text of some of the grammatical features that make an effective persuasive letter. To start with, you have some retrieval questions. The first two are based on our reading sessions from this week, and then the third one is about what is a verb. So you've got to tick or circle the correct answer. Pause the video now and have a go, please. Okay, I actually forgot to tell you that these words were from our session way before half term. So if you've remembered what these words mean, that is absolutely fantastic and well done. So give a synonym, a word that means the same as astonishingly. So I've given you an image here to help you. Astonishingly means the same as amazingly, surprisingly, or impressively. Number two, the definition is in a way that shows great happiness or joy at a victory or an achievement. What is the word? I'm sure you've all got that picture of that boy at the top of the mountain going, yes! The word is triumphantly. Finally, what is a verb? These are the same choices that you had yesterday, but I've just changed the question. A verb is a word used to describe an action. So you could have running, you could have walking, you could have shouting. Okay. In today's lesson, we are going to learn about the different features of a persuasive letter. As you know, your next topic that we are working on this week is about persuasive letter writing to convince the axeman not to cut down the trees, just like the animals did in the story of the Great Kapok Tree. So it's really important that you are exposed to the way that you are going to lay your letter out now so that it's not a great shock when you do write it. So I want you to just pause the video here, have a read at the following features of a persuasive letter and see if you recognise any of them. Pause the video now and have a read, please. Did you manage to recognise some of them? Fantastic. So the first thing you need to do is write your address. Your address is where your letter comes from. And when we write it, we're going to write it from Brookvale Primary School. So not your own house, don't worry. We're going to be writing it from our school. Now your address goes on the top right hand side of the letter. Your address needs to include your house name or number, or in our terms, our school name, the street, the town or city, and the county. So you can see here the example is 123 Apple House is the house name, Blueberry Road is the street name, Exeter is the town, and county is Devon. Now it's really important that you remember it goes in the top right corner because something else goes in the top left corner, which is very, very similar. In the top left corner, the address of who you are writing to goes there. So that is called the recipient's address. So who you're writing to is called the recipient. So we are writing to the axeman in the Amazon rainforest. And I will be giving you the address at a later date. But that is the same structure. But this time it includes their house name and number, their street, their town or city, their county. So an example here is 567 Banana House, Raspberry Road is the street, Exeter again is the town, and the county is Devon. So our address goes at the left, their address at the right, okay? Do you think you can remember that? Super. Now underneath your address, well our address, this is where you write the full date. So not just the short date like we do in maths, the full date, the day, the date, the month and the year. So Thursday, 25th of February, 2021. Next comes the greeting. Now, if you don't know who the letter is to, you begin it with either Mr., Miss, Mrs. or Ms and their surname and then a comma. So you might be writing to someone with the surname as Smith. If you don't know their first name, you will put Dear Miss Smith, and that just shows a bit of formality, but you mustn't forget the comma after it. That's really important. The massive the massive chunk I will be speaking about next, but if you don't know the last name of the person, then you call them sir or madam. If they are a man, you address them as sir. If they are a woman, you address them as madam. Okay, so that's if you don't know their first or last name. If you know their last name, you call them Miss, Mr, Mrs. If you don't know their first or last name, it's sir or madam. And then we get into the huge chunk, the main part of your writing. This is where you introduce the topic you're writing about and you state the argument. So do you agree or do you disagree? In our terms, we are disagreeing with the axeman's decision to try and chop down the trees. We are going to be writing 3 reasons about this, and each time we introduce our new paragraph, we're going to be using words such as firstly, secondly. You might even write thirdly. You might also say, in my opinion, some believe that, I feel that, I am sure that. So when you are writing your 3 points to stop the axeman and give reasons for why deforestation should not happen, you must always try and persuade them by using these words such as in my opinion. You must also, this is what we're going to be doing tomorrow, is describe using great adjectives. So tomorrow you're going to be looking at expanded noun phrases again, really constructing some brilliant ones around the different creatures and the things in the great kapok tree. And if you use great adjectives, that makes the reader think. Then you're going to argue why it's so good or bad. So you might, in your opinion, you might say deforestation is a bad thing. You must use powerful verbs to show this. But don't worry, because we're going to do lots and lots of work on this over the next week. You also need to give reasons for and against. So you might appreciate that, yes, deforestation is a bad thing. But you might actually write one sentence saying, actually, I do understand why you would want to cut the trees down, but you shouldn't because. This is where you use your rhetorical questions. Get your recipient thinking, make them realise they need this, they need to change. And then you end in your final paragraph concluding, this is what I need you to do, and this is what you are going to do, and this will hopefully persuade them. And finally, you will end it. If you don't know who the letter's to, again, if you've had to start it with dear sir or madam, you will close the letter always on the left-hand side, because you put their address on the left-hand side too. You address it by saying yours sincerely, and then you put your full name. If you don't know who the letter is to, close your letter again with yours faithfully. So I think I made a mistake then in what I said. If you do know who the letter is to, so you've said Dear Miss Smith, you will write yours sincerely. If you don't know who it's to, you will write yours faithfully. Okay? Now it's your turn. I have got a letter here, and it's using the same addresses, the same people, okay? And what I want you to do is to try and spot where each of the following features of a persuasive letter are. So we've looked through all of them today. I would like you to have the copy in front of you from your resource sheet. If you don't have the following colours, then you can make up your own key or annotate it. But you must make sure that if you are changing the colours that you write down the specific scheme that you're using. I think Ramea was really good at this when Ramea changed the colour scheme of some of her keys. And she was really, really clear about what the new colour scheme would be. So pause the video and underline where each of the features are, okay? Pause the video now and work on that now, please. Okay, how did you do? Did you get them all right? So did you spot that our address needs to go in the top right and their address goes in the top left? Your greeting is Dear Miss Smith and the full date is underneath our address. And then you've got your introduction, your first point, your second point, and we are going to do 3 points. And then you've got your conclusion, which is all about the topic, persuading the reader. And finally, you close the letter with your name. And because we knew who it was to Miss Smith, you can write yours sincerely. So well done if you've got all of those right. Your final task now is to have a go at finding and copying the following persuasive letter features. So in your main chunk, so in your orange part of your letter, you are now going to try and find conjunctions to link the reasons such as firstly, secondly, finally, however. You're looking for some rhetorical questions, those questions that don't require an answer. You're looking for that emotive language, certain words making you feel a certain way. Look for those ambitious words, those really high quality language words. And also look for opinions. Now, I think the emotive language might be a bit tricky for some of you. We haven't done much work on this, so I'm going to work through one with you together. So we're going to find one word that makes us feel a certain emotion. One word when I read this is the word trespassing. Do you know what the word trespassing means? If you're trespassing something, you are going somewhere, you are entering a place or a building when you're not supposed to. Using this really high quality word trespassing makes me feel quite guilty that I have let this monkey into their home, because that's what Mr. Chair is writing about. He's writing about this monkey who shouldn't trespass. So this word makes me feel guilty. So when you're reading this, I would like you to think about every word and think, does this word make me feel sad? Does this word make me feel happy? Because actually, we are Miss Smith at the moment. We're receiving this letter, okay? So I want you to think, maybe stealing would be a emotive language word as well. Because if you say that someone is stealing something, you almost feel like, oh, I didn't steal. How dare you say that? Quite a powerful word, making you feel a certain way. So your final task for today is using the same letter, so this one here. Try and find and copy examples of the following persuasive letter features. So I've given you my example here, emotive language example, trespassing. Then you'd write a comma, then you'd write your next emotive word, another comma, next emotive word, and so on until you've got 5 emotive words. More if you can, but 5 minimum. So when you are making your list, you have to write the word, comma, write the word, comma, so that you break them up. So the first one is conjunctions. Find some conjunctions, list them. There won't be many. The second one is rhetorical questions. So those questions that don't need an answer. There also won't be many of those, maybe 2 or 3. Then you find 5 examples of emotive words, write them here. 5 examples of ambitious vocabulary. And then you find some opinions. So when they say, I think, I feel, as you know, some opinions, maybe 3 opinions, okay? And that's what you're going to do now. Finally then, plenary, I would like you to identify 3 main features that a persuasive letter needs, and also 3 grammatical features that we've just looked at that a persuasive letter needs. Pause the video, have a think. Okay, did you identify that a persuasive letter needs an address of not only ourselves, but the person, the recipient that we are sending the letter to? We need a big chunk of all of our reasons and our main argument, don't we? Which we're going to be working on over the coming week. And then we also need to sign it correctly and date it correctly, don't we? And then 3 grammatical features that a persuasive letter needs are rhetorical questions. We've learned about those before. A persuasive letter also needs ambitious vocabulary, and it also needs emotive language. Many other things too, but those are just the main things. So that is your task for today, to have a go at finding some examples. I know you're going to be brilliant. Try your best as always. Really looking forward to seeing them. Bye Year 4.